Good evening, Falcon here, and we're going to be having a look at a couple of mods for Kerbal Space Program. First up is the Tiberdyne Aerospace Shuttle Launch System by Tiberian. It adds spaceplane parts which will allow you to recreate the shuttle program within Kerbal. Not only that, you're also given the parts required to make the Soviet Buran orbiter and inertia launch system. Here we have the Odyssey orbiter and NASA style stack. This operates in the same manner as the real-life space shuttle, with 3 SSMEs receiving fuel from the external tank and 2 solid rocket boosters. This is Buran. Fundamentally, the orbiter is identical from nose to tail, but its key differences lie in the back. Instead of the 3 RS-25 SSMEs, it has 4 engines powered by oxidizer and monopropellant. These engines are used for orbital maneuvers and are not fed fuel from the external tank like the NASA Space Shuttle. Instead, propulsion is achieved via the RD-170 engine at the business end of the inertia rocket and a further 4 RD-0120 liquid boosters strapped to the side of it. There is a second variant of the orbiter, a strictly fictional bird named Intrepid, and comes in both NASA and Buran flavors. The only real difference between this and Odyssey is the addition of an atmospheric engine located at the base of each wing, complete with air intakes. All variants of these shuttles have a max crew capacity of 6, 3 in the main cockpit and a further 3 in the cargo bay crew module. This makes the shuttle ideal for station crew rotation. Atop the crew module is the extendable docking port. When deployed, it will be clear of the orbiter's cockpit. The cargo bay is only useful for taking up anything smaller than 2-meter parts. Therefore, only satellites and small space station components need apply. Essentially, it's about as practical as the real space shuttle. Toho Torpedo has upgraded the placeholder Mk3 cockpit to something much nicer. The mod is aptly named Mk3 Cockpit Internals and is matched to the shape of the Mk3 cockpit exterior. This cockpit has radar altimeter, atmosphere gauge, nav ball, clock altimeter, vertical speed, throttle and instrument panel. The third seat in this cockpit sits below and has a trio of monitors. Clicking the first will show you an underside rear-facing view of the orbiter. The second is a forward-facing view just in front of the cockpit windows, and the third is located at the top of the cockpit, ideal for docking maneuvers. For this launch, I'm going to select the NASA launch system with the Odyssey orbiter. Our destination is the Kerbal National Space Station, which sits in a parking orbit of 75 kilometers. I will now go through the pre-flight checklist. First, ensure cargo bay doors are closed. Second, activate surf in Mk3's Smart ASS. The heading and pitch should both be 90 and then press execute. Bring throttle to around half. If too much thrust is applied, the external tank may collide with the launch tower. Finally, get into the launch window. As my station is in a low orbit, I prefer to launch ahead of it and allow for it to catch up. All 3 mains are on, activating the solid rocket boosters and severing with the launch tower. Initiate the roll program, making sure the orbiter will be inverted along the ascent path. At around 7 kilometers up, start to alter pitch in small increments. Remember to hit execute with each modification to the course. The SRBs are nearly dry and will be decoupled from the external tank shortly. And there we go, good separation. I think that Tiberian ought to install some kind of built-in separation units to stop them from colliding with the underside of the orbiter. "46 kilometers up and we're almost flush with the horizon. Odyssey is now negative return." we're high enough up to roll 180 degrees, putting the ET between Odyssey and Kerbal. Once rolled, adjust your pitch up. As the SSMEs are swiveled to compensate for the asymmetrical weight balance, the pitch needs to be at 9+ degrees to ensure altitude is not lost. Now that we are at our desired altitude, main engine cutoff and coast to apoapsis. Light the engines again and burn until your periapsis is around 40 kilometers. We don't want to be bringing the external tank with us into orbit. Decouple the tank, making sure the underside of the orbiter is clear before you continue on course. Use the Rad Plus module to circularize. This is especially useful if you are halfway to periapsis and are still comparatively low to the apoapsis. All we have to do now is adjust our orbit to rendezvous with the space station. When translating with RCS, activate SAS to stop the orbiter from going off course. Use small bursts of RCS to maneuver towards the docking node. I prefer not to use control from here on the docking port. It throws my muscle memory out the window, so I simply use Mark 1 eyeball. Remember to translate in one direction at a time. Once successfully docked, transfer crew, pose for publicity shots and enjoy the view. It's now time to go home. Undock, get clear of the station and prepare for the deorbit burn. Try to have your estimated landing point be just beyond the KSC to compensate for atmospheric drag. Once the burn is complete, point the nose prograde and pitch slightly above the horizon. Landing gear down, on final approach. Wheels down on the flight deck, Odyssey will roll to a complete stop. It's mission a success. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and are able to use the flight guide to perform your own shuttle missions. Good night.